Cities are never finished. They evolve generation by generation, shaped by the people who imagine what they could become. Over the past half century, South Africa has undergone extraordinary change, politically, economically, and socially. And through every one of those chapters, our cities have been quietly transformed. Behind many of those transformations are individuals with the courage to think decades ahead, people who see opportunity where others see uncertainty. John Rabie is one of those people. From pioneering housing developments during one of the most turbulent periods in South Africa's history, to helping create one of the country's most successful urban precincts in Century City, his work has shaped the way thousands of people live, work, and experience their cities today. Through the Rabie Property Group and later Signatura, he has spent nearly 50 years imagining what the future of urban living could look like, and then bringing those ideas to life. Today on Braadcast, we sit down with John Rabie to explore the philosophy behind great developments, the lessons of resilience through decades of change, and what it really takes to build cities that endure. Welcome, John Rabie, to the Braadcast. It's so exciting for us to have you here on the broadcast. We've been looking forward to it, and I'm just an absolute honor that you said yes when we asked you to be here, and thank you.
Thank you, Domi. It's lovely to see you again and have you in Cape Town. And I look forward to sharing some thoughts over the past 5 decades with you.
So let me just, I'd like to share this with you because, we've been putting this together, this platform, and it's really a relaxed conversation. I want you to be as honest and as authentic as you could possibly be. And we'll just go with the flow. And I'll ask you a couple of questions, and you're going to give us some ideas and insights into what made you into the legend today. But when we were deciding on who should we bring, the next person to bring onto the podcast, your name came up. And they said, if you're looking for a character and if you're looking for a storyteller and if you're looking for a legend, well, there's no one better than Johnny Rabie. He ticks all 3 boxes. And so it's our honor actually to be, we humbly say thank you for appearing here today. And I'd love to share some of those insights with our followers and see where it goes to. So let's go back to the very, very, very beginning. Obviously you're a migrant from of a generation from your folks, come from Eastern Europe. Can you share a little bit about how you ended up in South Africa, how the family, because your name, Rabie, is not a normal Jewish name, and I know you are of Jewish descent.
Yeah, and Nomi, yeah, thank you. It's a great way to start. My grandfather was 7 years old when they migrated from Lithuania. And there were 3 ships. One was going to the US, one was going to the UK, and the 3rd ship was coming to South Africa, Cape Town. Anyway, he arrived. He was a young man and probably around 10 years old. And he, of course, had his interpreter. So they land up at the customs. And the customs obviously said, please, can you see your passport and what's your name? So his name is Rabie. And the controller there, a lovely Afrikaans boy, said, well, we don't really have any Rabies, but ons het Rabies. So your name is now Rabie, Herman Rabie. And that's how come I've got an Afrikaans surname. And it stood me in good stead over the years, I must tell you.
And they're always in Cape Town. They arrived in Cape Town. They stay, and you stayed here, and you grew up here, and you lived in Cape Town.
Yeah,
always in this area, or maybe more north. Where were
they? So I grew up in Kenilworth. I went to Sax High School, and then after that studied at UCT, and always been in Cape Town. Soon after that, I met my current partner of almost 50 years now. I think it's 49 years. Leon Cohen, and we were at that stage studying also together, and we played a lot of rugby together, and we were great pals. And I just got married to my wife Jo. That was in 1979, and we said to each other, well, we've come to the end of the studying era.
What did you study?
I did building science
Okay.
and construction supervisor as part of. I was at first went to the Technicon, then I went to the university after that. And what happened was, I said to Leon, well, let's get going. So how do you start? In those days, we had no money. So I said, why don't we, together we said, let's start painting buildings. And that's in fact where I met Johnny Brawl. So this is now 78.
He did mention that to me. He said I should ask you. He said about your first client.
Yeah, my first, and there was a building around the corner here. And I said, Johnny, we'd like to give you a quote. And he said, okay, that's great. And Leon and myself worked it out. And that was the start of our relationship. It then evolved post that. And that was the start to get into the building, because we're coming to remembering properties in my blood. I love it. It will always be with me. But we were started from a building background. And that was the start of the 50-year journey.
So you started off as painters and fixing and refurbing buildings, from what I'm hearing.
Yes.
And then it must have evolved, and you must have said, listen, we can do more.
Yes.
I mean, which is the first little project in development that you think you were onto something, and that it would be something even greater down the line? But
well, from that, very quickly, we morphed into construction. So we became builders, and we used to tender for work. We did the Charlie Parker's in Sea Point, a refurbishment there. And then that got, obviously, then the property side starts to come into it. It's 1980, and we are looking at areas like Constantia, Takai. And in those days, people did not have...
To refurb or to develop?
No, starting to build. We created a brand called Plot and Plan. We were the first guys to coin that plot and plan. And what it was a lot of people in those days had plots, but they didn't really know how to visualize the house and construct the house and build it, and obviously as part of the package. So we aptly named it the Plot and Plans, and we started building. People, and we had designs, we had architecture. And Leon and myself were in a little office in Rondebosch, 38 Belmont Road, if I'm not mistaken. It was about 35, 40 square meters. And that's where the bug or the love for real estate came into it. So that's whatever we have done, and we'll go through over the 50 years, that was the start. And I used to do the selling, and Leon used to do the building,
And what did Leon study? The same thing?
Same. Yeah, we studied together.
So you made a good team, obviously.
Yeah, I always say to him, we were opposites, and opposites attract. So, and then from there, it grew. So from 1 month, one house, or 2-3 houses a month, to 5-6 houses, and then we said to ourselves, but hang on a sec, what's the next logical phase? Is to buy a property, buy land. And that was really, if I think back,
your first plot that you bought.
The first plot was in Ladies Mile Extension in Middle Constantia. I think it was about 10,000 Rand for the stand. We designed a house on it and completed it and furnished it and landscaped it. We were the first people to understand the impact of what furnishings and landscaping will do on a completed house. And our marketing then started to evolve, that we were way before, ahead of our game in those days, building these little villages, and people used to come in on a Sunday, used to pick up the paper. Those days, just remember, there's no internet or anything. Way. So pick up the paper and come and see our salespeople, beautifully furnished, beautifully landscaped. And it's always about, I used to say, it's the triangle of property development. Is the architecture, the landscaping, and the interior decoration. If you get those 3 right, you're on your way.
So I mean, from what I know and from the early days, I mean, there were a lot of, should I say, European, Portuguese, Italian builders in South Africa that were here, and they were like kind of artisans and craftsmen, and they used to build the most amazing kind of houses. But you offered all three. I think there's two young Jewish entrepreneurs that come here and they've added something, a bit of spice to the development, and you're giving them a final product. Because I don't believe, I mean, even in today, everyone is looking for the right builder, especially a home. And word of mouth and trust, I think, is everything. And I think that's possibly one of the things that's got you going, that kind of word of mouth and trust and delivering.
Yeah, exactly right. So we were both playing rugby at Villages in those days, Villages Rugby Club. So out of Villages, we had Rodney Bryant, Miles O'Brien, all of the guys came to us and they had land, and we packaged the house for them. And off we went. So we started to build it up beautifully in the southern suburbs of Cape Town in those days. And we carried on, so remember now we sort of 83, 84, and then came a massive paradigm shift. So we were constructing ourselves, building, but what was hamstringing us was our ability. We were selling more than what we could build. So our products were so popular that we needed now to actually say to ourselves, do we really need to build? And we formed both relationships with very reputable builders. We can get onto it. Murray and Roberts, for instance, did a massive amount from those early days. And once we had the builder, we could then go sell. So the whole property merging now comes into the development phase of our success. And what really happened was we said to Murray and Roberts had lots of land, the old Murray and Roberts properties. They had land in Strandfontein, they had land in Johannesburg and in Durban. So we started to take our concept of the village and we did joint ventures with them. We had a very good relationship. They were fantastic builders. They were quick. And we quickly built up to, in the next 3-4 years, up into sort of 85, 86s to 100 units a month. We were building across the country, Durban, Joburg, and Cape Town. And then we were
That was the late 80s, middle to late 80s.
Late 80s. And then in 88, Johnny Brown arrived at my house and he said, there's a cash shell available. Do you want to list on the main board of the JSE? And to cut a long story short and not go into too much detail, we did. We reverse listed into this cash shell and we were on the main board. We were, I think we were in our early 30s.
Was that mainly for, I mean, obviously financial purposes? Was it easy to raise money then?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't because it was. The idea of that is that they had a big tax loss. The shell had a tax loss, so that was the start of the growth. 88, 89, 90, 91, we were going flat out. And we were basically in all the townships, the majority of the townships in this country, building our products. And then came the political drama and the banks not wanting to lend and bond boycotts and all of that stuff.
Did you have some developments in the ground when the banks stopped lending?
No, because our model is always, we build these beautiful show houses, show villages, furnish them, put water, lovely features. People come and they buy off the plan. So you must remember, let's call us risk-averse developers throughout our careers, that we'll have a go, and we have had, but not often. We always trying to write the risk out, the property risk of our ability to sell, build whatever it is, by bringing in the market and using our brand and the name we've built in the marketplace to create the sales, which gives us a fantastic leverage. And that's exactly what we've done throughout this period.
And then tell me, obviously after that, then you started getting into some really, not that they weren't insignificant, but you got to really some big developments. And I was reading that the development that you did with the government and the Marconi Beam development, and where Nelson Mandela was the opening ceremony. Talk us through that, because I think that is close to your heart and was possibly one of the highlights of your life looking back on the property journey.
Yeah, I think I go back a step. I'm a patriot. I love this country, and I saw the opportunity was when Nelson Mandela was released. That was 1990. What we could do to uplift our communities, and that's really what drove me to do what we did. But the one story I must tell you. We were living in Constantia. My girls were growing up, three daughters, and I get a ring on my doorbell, and the guy says, "Listen, my name's Zutulele Kombi. Could I come inside? I've heard this is now 1989. Dark, still very much the dark days. I've heard that you're a very liberal guy. I've got some ideas I'd like to discuss with you." I said, "Well." Taxi came down. Out he gets. I always tell KK. He reminded me of Benson in the TV shows. And he said to me, "Johnny, I've got a concept. I want to build a shopping center in Younger, between Younger and Manenberg, called the Younger Junction." Intersight, then a subsidiary of Transnet, was starting to offload and, well, not offload, but sell under leasehold property areas around stations that were underutilized. And in this particular station, the shopping center was designed to utilize that and on the platforms. And the concept was to, as the communities were coming home, they didn't have to go miles and miles away to go and shop. They could get their shopping and they could go straight to where they lived. Southern Life at the time were very, starting to look at how they could use their funds to empower the communities, and Younger Junction fitted that, so we built it. And it was sold to Southern Life.
Was that your first centre that you bought?
That was the first centre that we built. And it was an exciting one because at that time we had to do our public participation with the community of Gugulethu and of Manenberg. And from that stage, of course, came let's get to that period. From there to the democracy was like a period of 3-4 years to 94. I never forget when Madiba was released. I stood in front of my TV at home and I said, "Your beauty, let's go, because here comes the opportunity." And where the opportunity lay in those days was we thought that there were squatter communities living in Milnerton on Coburg Road. Everybody hated the squatters because of the past. And in Milnerton, there was the community, mostly at that stage ANC, and the people on the other side of the road were the traditionalists from the past. And the right-wingers, let's call it for want of a word. So I went to Telkom, and I said to him, "Look here, you've got 240 hectares, vacant land, right in the middle, opposite Bontuku Garden. We will build houses for all the guys that are living in the shacks. We'll identify the numbers, the shack numbers, and we will build out the houses, and they will get it for R1. And we will create a new community where these guys can live and work and play right next to where the factories are going to be coming." So I knew in my heart how severe apartheid was it spread everybody. The communities were far out there, so getting the taxis, have to drive hours and then get to work, and then with post all the issues that these guys are faced with. So I said, let's bring everybody together. And this was the start of a planning exercise which had never been done in this country. So we said, let's plan it in a way, and let's go to everybody and say, "Look, this is what we're going to do." So we have the first public meeting in Milnerton, and we've got the guys from the community there. We've got the guys from staying in the suburb next door. And it was like, is this thing going to work, or is it going to be chaos here?
There must have been a bit of resistance.
There wasn't, because we had lobbied before. You must remember, I was, and there was a partner of ours, Leslie Fillion. We were sitting in the squatter camp with a candle, showing the guys. Welcome Mbanga was the head of I still remember his name, what it's going to look like, explaining to them, because it was never done. It was a brand new concept. Anyway, we got consensus. The municipality bought in. Telkom sold us the balance of the land. It was about 220 hectares, which we subdivided into big pieces of industrial land, which we then subsequently sold to Mutual, Sanlam, Nationale Pers, and that became the engine room to fund what we needed to do to create the infrastructure, to create the housing for the disadvantaged community, and then build also housing a little bit more expensive, people who already had jobs and could afford. And when we launched that, Madiba came. I'll never forget it as long as I live, Norman. I can tell you, I had tears in my eyes. And when he said, this is where we see the reconstruction and development at work, the Masakani, and he opened it up and he cut the ribbon. And that was the start of new planning, new thinking in the municipalities, that we need to start to have mixed-use communities. You must remember, apartheid was so severe on the planning that it built an M5 and an M3, and the roads created the barriers where the so-called whites, the so-called disadvantaged community stayed. That's how it was kept apart. We were going to break that down and bring everybody together. And that was the start of it.
Because, I mean, it's funny you mentioned Telkom. I mean, they're busy selling a lot of land of theirs that they could have sold 20, 30 years ago and had a lot more of these developments throughout the country. It's a pity it's taken so long. But they are doing it. And so are some of the other government entities. I mean, you just saw recently that the city of Cape Town were selling some of the properties, obviously, for the future development with the private sector and to put it in the right hands. It's a pity there wasn't just more done throughout the country. But I mean, obviously, I think going back, I think the Western Province was a lot more liberal and a lot more forward-thinking and progressive, I think, in that way for everyone to try and be closer together. And it's also obviously smaller, but you were certainly on the right track. I mean, whatever you did speaks for itself. I mean, your name is synonymous with the change of residential development, and especially in the communities that needed it most. Then, I mean, take you past that, there was obviously, you started really making a name for yourself, and obviously Rabie Property Group was in its own right the leaders of the industry, especially in these areas. And you mentioned Murray and Robert Shame. I mean, we sold most of their portfolio many years ago, and I think the likes of Redefined and Fortress, I think they grabbed most of that up. But it's really a bit disappointing that not more was done. Yeah. Then along came the most famous of all your developments, which I think, and maybe it's not, but maybe it is, and I'd like you to share that with me. How did you get your hands on this Century City land? I mean, because obviously there was a tender, there was like kind of a repossession, went to the market, and I think Mark Wayner was very involved in buying the shopping centre and putting the group consortium together, and I think it was together with High Prop, they bought Canal Walk. But then there was the land, and from what I remember, there was a competitive bidding process, and you beat him to tell us, talk us through it.
He didn't really like me a lot, I must be honest with you. But I just want to go back because in that period of the great booms, this country's seen is we call it, and it really happens every 20 years. That's the way we've sort of worked it out. It was 2001 to 2007 when the world collapsed. We had...
It was post the interest rate hike.
Correct. Yeah. So we had started to do joint ventures with the city of Cape Town. We built the Atlantic Beach golf course. Big Bay was with the city of Cape Town. And we, again, trying to get into these big projects, but not to buy huge tracts of land and take that risk. So we, using our skills, sharing, we have had many very successful joint ventures.
Can I ask you another question? Yeah. How many of your partners then, from the very beginning, are still with you today? And I mean, obviously, Leon Cohen is
Yeah.
your brother almost.
Yeah, is very much.
But how many other partners who are still from the very beginning are with you today?
Well, we at the moment, if I had to say, as we stand, it was Leon and myself. In 1988, John Chapman came out of UCT with his bushy hair and big glasses. A very bright young guy. Then he's with us still today. He's starting to take it a little bit easier. Then Colin Green came as an engineering-based guy. He's been with us also in the early, I think Colin came in about 91, 92, if I'm not mistaken. And then along the way, Greg Deans came through the situation with Nedbank, which we'll get to, of Century City. And also trying to take it a little bit more easier these days. So what has happened in Rabie is, and very smartly, Leon has created, and through ourselves, another level of junior management, because you must remember we at 65 to 70, and this is the new group coming through, and they're outstanding, run by Mariska Ulrich. She's the MD of let's call it the new Rabie group. So, but of course, we've had Lee Metcalf has been with us on the administration since those early days. She joined as a secretary, and many others I can't think of all.
And your partners, you've had partners from the beginnings, and they're still partners with you today in financial partners or development partners?
Yeah, very much so. I think, if I think of what we've done, and it's so difficult, to just so encapsulated in just in an hour. But I think let's jump back to what you asked me about Century City. So we had then built Racecourse Gardens, which was the old racecourse in Milnerton. Big Bay was a massive public-private partnership, as I said, and the Atlantic Beach Golf Course and estate. It was 1,000 stands.
You did that with Robbie Marshall, I think.
That's right. Robbie built the golf course.
Golf data, yeah.
Golf data, 100%. And then we had a call from Nedbank, and it came, I'll never forget, it was at a cocktail.
Board of Executives, I think.
It was a guy, Justin de Wet-Steen, who was partners with Martin Ragg in Monex. And he said to me, I need you to show you this property development we're doing. And we knew Century City was strategically placed, but we didn't want to compete against what we were doing, because we were doing a development around the racecourse in Kenilworth called a racecourse that was with Western Province Racing, where we built a head office for Pick and Pay, and right around. So I wouldn't say I was apprehensive, but anyway, to cut a long story short, he got me to make a time. So I took John Chapman with me and Colin Green, and we met at a little restaurant there. And you must remember, in those days, it was Canal Walk and one or two big office buildings, which was Vodacom and a couple of others. But otherwise, the land was bush, the whole thing.
And it was in the middle of nowhere, though.
Yeah, they used to call it Seven Panikis. It was a wetland.
Yeah, I mean.
And anyway, they had built the canal in the infrastructure. So we got into the little boat, and the canal took us all the way around to the front of the shopping center. So you've got the bush and you've got the shop. And then it clicked. I said to John, this is it. This is what we're looking for, because the shopping center's there, the infrastructure's there. This is where you've got to do a mixed use in its truest form. And they were very clever that they had a bag of rights, which the municipality was always forward thinking. It was the old Milnerton municipality, a bag of rights which encapsulated commercial, retail, resi, hospitality, and all those things. So you could play around with it, but we knew in the Rabie side that we could build, certainly along the water, 400-500 apartments, which is what we went and did, called Island Club. That was the start. At that stage, we now 202, we get a call from the chairman, Chris Ball. He was then the chairman of Monex, if I'm not mistaken. And we met at the Nedbank offices, Leon and myself. I'll never forget, it was a Saturday morning, saying, look here, this is what we want to do. We want to sell these rights. And we said, look here, we would be very interested. And they had some process. I'm not quite sure if it was a tender, but they went to probably their top developers. I know there was RPP, there was Mark Wayner. And to cut a long story short, Tom Boardman and the board of Nedbank, who were then the owner, because it had gone into liquidation, or not liquidation, but it had been moved out of where Monix was in trouble, and they took it away. And it became under a wholly owned subsidiary of Nedbank. And they agreed that we were the right people to develop it, because this is not a commercial building that you're buying. This was a vision of how you could live, work, and play on about 180 hectares of land. So you had to understand how those uses could work together to be what it is, what Century City is today. So you had to start with the residential, because you've got to get people wanting to live there. They can walk to the shopping center. You had to then, on the commercial side, the office side, you had to build the offices. You had to put the hotel and the central square of Century City, which then came. And then we took Ratanga. We ran Ratanga as a theme park for 10 years. And then we said, okay, now we're ready to develop it. And we've made it into a public park for all the communities. And around it, we've put up, must be about 400 or 500 years.
So, I mean, it goes without saying, it's one of the best developments, mixed use and residential commercial developments in the world. I mean, I think you've even won some awards.
Yes.
But did you get any ideas from abroad? Did you travel and look and see what is happening across the borders and bring it back here? Where did your ideas come from?
I think the inspiration is an understanding of mixed use. People sometimes don't really understand when the word mixed use is, because it's a whole new way of life. And what it also does is it breaks down what there was before. In breaking down those highways, I talk about opening them up, Century City, opening up all the roads to the surrounding areas and onto the N1. So the planning principles, did I see anything from... my parents lived in Australia for many years. And I used to obviously go visit them. I learned a lot, not so much about mixed use, but about property development in Australia, because Australia was like ahead of us. And, a lot of the inner city developments that they did to stimulate the inner city of Sydney, we utilized in Cape Town. So Century City is and we've got, I think about 10,000, 15,000 people living there. We've got a canal walks coming to its own.
Because it went through a very, very, very difficult time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I remember it was in the middle of nowhere. The population didn't support it.
Well, I mean, when we bought it, and that's one of the few big purchases we did make at the time. But we were so confident about what we could do there, and that what we wanted to do there, we in terms of getting the uses to work and to build really beautiful office buildings and different types of offices, some to rent, some to sell, sectional title. The big guys, Discovery and APSA, they're all there. And then to link then to me, the most important thing that the Rabie directors did, and it will always remain, was the building of the first hotel, Crystal Towers, because then we started to go into a whole new world. Because once you've got the hotel, you can build the conference facilities. And then came the Century City Convention Center, which has won numerous awards. So outstanding, full up, chock-a-block, and all these hotels that are around it that are spinning off that. And then you get a city to work. Then people are walking along the roads in the evening. We've got this magnificent 16-hectare wetland right in the middle, which is used by the community.
I mean, once you're in there, you don't really need to leave. I mean, you've got everything. I mean, you certainly don't want to navigate your way through the traffic.
No.
I know we've got you to come here today. It must have taken you a while, but I'm saying you've got every possible thing, a community within a community. You're safe. You've got all the amenities. I mean, so that's obviously unparalleled. I think there's a one. I think in Johannesburg they've called they've done the
waterfall.
Yes, waterfall
Yeah.
city, the Century Group. But I'm saying in Cape Town, wow, and I mean it's just incredible. And then I mean I don't know if there's any more you want to tell us a little bit about that and the journey. And was there any difficult times?
There's always been difficult times, normally.
I mean, how did you get through them?
Wow.
Mention one that stands out.
1987, the fatal speech by P.W. Botha, when he told everybody to jump off the train. The interest rates the next day went to 27%. 27%. That was a killer blow, but we tightened it up and we adapted to it, and we made new products. We made our housing cheaper, and you get through it. But you must remember, today, as we sit here, there's a massive war going on. That's also going to have an impact on the property business. So it's just the ups and downs. They've been wonderful years.
I think in 98 there was another interest rate cut, and 2001,
and 2000, and then it started to turn.
The honey years.
Yeah, and even in the 2010 to 26 have been very, very good years for the Rabie Property Group. We're not only in Century City, we're in Paarl, we're in Burgundy.
Do you ever feel like you're not going to get out of this? Like in a situation that you were, you were quite conservative, you were risk averse, and you just felt that you knew what you were doing.
Yeah, I think, there was, when we look at risk, to me, it's calculated risk. So we're wanting to always sell, and before we make any decision to proceed in acquisition of land, unless it's very special. Look, we have bought sites that, that we built on straight away, especially in we'll get onto it now in the latter years. But no, I don't think we were ever in a position. You must remember, I must just relate one thing that's coming to me with Murray and Robert. So in 1988, we acquired a business called Zozo Homes in Johannesburg.
I remember that.
They were in Alberton. It was a guy, Michael Joubert, and his wife, and we bought it. And their major business was the rental fleet of their cabins. In the Lesotho Highlands Water Project, big building sites they used to rent. And that Zozo, we merged with Murray and Roberts as CR Park Homes to form what we call was the new group. And then we also bought the ready built, which was the LTA, the old LTA, Grenica in those. That business was a great business, and we had, and again, that was furthering entrenchment of our relationship with M&R. I mean, we really were very close to them, and we tendered for a project. We talk about upheavals and downhills in Cabinda province in Angola to build, because they did prefabricated schools. We won the tender. We sent overseas, sent to Angola our crew of about 15 guys, all Portuguese speaking. It's Angola, and off we started building the schools. And I got a call from Murray and Roberts, from David Brink at the time. I said, we must get together. We've got a problem. And they showed us a picture of these guys hanging upside down with a rope. They had been kidnapped. And they sent a kidnap note to us. They wanted X amount of millions of dollars for their release. And that, it was such a shock. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I went up to Johannesburg, and we employed a hostage negotiator that negotiated on our behalf. We settled on a number, and we brought the guy straight back, and we never ever went back to Angola. So a cheap lesson. But
I mean, they must have just taken you through an emotional roller coaster. Well, imagine that. I mean,
what we did was, when we got back, Leon and myself, we said, okay, now this is not for us. So we sold our share in Quick Space, which was the holding company, back to Murray Roberts. We thank you very much, guys. This is not for us. So look, obviously, there were many instances that were dramatic, like when the bond boycott started in Khayelitsha in Cape Town. MBS had a book there of 100 million, on which this was because of the apartheid, where people were not paying their bonds, and they were not paying because there was no governance and there was nothing being given to them to improve their properties and pay their bonds, etc., etc. We also worked our way around that, and these ups and downs you had to deal with through the democracy. The democracy, 94 to up until like 2006 was brilliant. That was the Trevor Manuel era and the Mbeki era. Thereafter, it was different. There were more issues that we had to deal with. But, we've managed them, and we've managed the exposure, and we're still there and we're breathing.
Before we go into your next chapter, because I think that's the most exciting chapter for you, I think when you get you're doing something now that you like, it's just like complete passion and designing and innovative. The government and the public and the private sector, I mean, do you think we can do, what do you think? You can do more? There should be more participation? Because obviously, I mean, just take you back to Gauteng, there's maybe you can build 10,000 homes a month and it won't be enough. Yeah. So, I mean, do you think we're going to get across that hurdle?
Normally let me put it to you this way. This country can build millions of houses. It had the capacity at the democracy with all the big construction companies, Group 5, Greenwich, Stocks, Murray and Roberts. But they all disappeared because they weren't able to gain traction because of the local authorities and the planning issues. And there was not a will to say, look here, let's do these deals with the private sector. There wasn't that.
There's a glimmer of hope, and yes, things are coming. I can see some shoots, certainly in Gauteng.
Yeah.
They want to make things happen.
It's coming, but you must remember, home ownership is the cornerstone of any society. America, one of the most important financial indicators is the housing market. It's massive. So if the housing market can, and I'm not talking in the established, I'm talking in the where the communities need the housing. Somebody's got to do it, and how they're going to do it, they're going to have to come back to the private sector and joint venture with the private sector, and open up the politics. That we're not stuck. And it's not dangerous, and they're not cartels. And
hopefully it happens sooner than.
Yeah. Everybody wants to own a home. What the past regime did, they had first-time home buyer subsidies, which made affordable for first-time home buyers by subsidizing the repayment, so they could afford more, and people bought, and that's how Australia grew, and many first-world countries. South Africa can do it. Our concept, our products were out of sheer passion on how to leverage our skills to bring housing into the greater picture. There is, post Marconi Beam, we did the Westlake housing project, which is at the end of the Blue Route, right next to Paulsmoor Prison. It was a squatter camp. It was the Rob Kroll squatters. We did the same thing. We went to the province, said to him, look here, we'll take away these guys, we'll build a whole village of 1,000 units for free, but we want the balance of the land. Seba golf courses on the one side. Today, there's a Redham school, there's the American embassy.
Was that you? I didn't even know that was you. I thought it was Mavela Panda.
No, that was us. The Westlake project. That won the biggest worldwide global award for, they call it slum improvement in the improvement of the bottom end of the market in America.
Amazing.
Yeah. And that's where everybody wanted to happen. The Constantia property owners didn't really want it, but they weren't sure. But the community wanted it, and we had to sit and negotiate with them and get a consensus. And
look at it today. I mean,
Yeah.
can you believe? I mean, some of the most expensive realty is in those areas. So then eventually, I think Rabie Property Group, you decided to possibly like take a step down and get more involved in signature.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a passion of yours. I know everyone speaks about it, and some of the projects that you've done and internationally are world acclaimed. And I mean, it's unbelievable. Talk us through that journey, because I think this is close to my heart.
Yeah, okay. So that really started when my older daughter married her husband. They were living, David Cohen, who's now the MD of Signature. We're living in Philadelphia, just outside Philadelphia, and Haley said to me, she phoned me up and she said, "It's so cold here, Dad." I said, "Well, why did you come and ask your husband?" And David was a book for it. And they arrived here with the little one. Ayala, she's now she's 13 now. She was 4 months old, and the vision was I had to be exceptional. I got great partners. They didn't object that I wanted to do something, take it down. Of course, I'm still involved. I talk to Leon every single day, but nobody was doing inner city development in Cape Town or it's like not only the city but the surrounding suburbs. If you look at how Sydney grew outwards, and it grew from the heart of the city. But you've got to have a city that's working. That's not, because our cities were built in the apartheid era, and everybody went home in the evening, some further than others, and then the next day they came to work. But there was no nightlife. There were no restaurants. It was dead. The cities were dead. That gave me the inspiration to start in Frederick, here in Cape Town, and start to build these apartments where people could live close to the city and work in the city and didn't have to travel across, spend 45 minutes to an hour. That still happens because now the roads are clogged up, but that's the next story. But so we started in Frederick. We moved down to Sea Point. Sea Point, they changed the town planning rules. I think it was in about 2014, 2015, where they didn't want height, but they wanted more flatter buildings, so you could build onto the boundary, so you could actually get more bulk on the sites. So we started in Greenpoint, Sea Point. We did some wonderful projects. In the city of Cape Town, we bought the old Mutual building. Just down here, I can actually see it from here. Yeah, I'm looking at it right across. Nobody had heard in Cape Town that you could convert a building and sell it. So we did the same thing. There was a hotel built on the first 10 floors to Accor, and the top 12 floors were sold off as apartments. We built a whole floor of apartments, showed the people, built the swimming pools, all the lifestyle stuff in that facility, security, parking. And I mean, we just went, poof, it sold like hot, like fire. And then we did various permutations in Greenpoint. We like Greenpoint. Greenpoint post 210, the city upgraded the infrastructure. All the roads, the sidewalks were all brick paved. That's what creates the space that you can start really being creative on the design. Sea Point went through a terrible period. Sea Point was a horrible place in about 2015 to 2016. But Sea Point was an obvious place for proper urban renewal. And we started in Sea Point. We were up in the hills there, and then we came down to the main road, and then a lot of has followed subsequent to us. And you look at Sea Point today, it's absolutely world class. And what's also happened is, because Cape Town is a great tourist spot. I mean, we in the hospitality industry here. A lot of what we did, we created a product for where you could Airbnb your units, or we did it on your behalf. And the rentals from about 2017 to 2018, just into COVID, dipped. Everything was 10,000 Rand a month. And then post-COVID, the rental markets have gone berserk here, and the property prices have gone berserk. I mean, the property prices have gone up 40, 50% in some parts of it.
I mean, talk about COVID. How did you?
Okay.
I mean, because they must. I mean, as a residential developer in these top end areas, and a little bit different to the Rabie property group. I mean, that must have hit you in the solar plexus.
So I never forget when they announced that, and we all were stuck away and we couldn't move from. I got the guys to come to see me, David and 2 or 3 of my other directors now, who are directors of Signature. And I said, guys, we've got a problem, but we're not stopping. This is an opportunity. So what do we got to do? We've got to sell down. We're going to sell apartments in Sea Point for under R1 million. So we bought a site from FMB, and we went up, and 8 floors. We called it Flamingo. We sold them for 990.
But they were beautiful.
For 1.2 million.
And they're absolutely
stunning.
Beautiful. They
beautifully
were
designed.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. You had to come to buy. You had a mask. You could come on certain times. It was all remote. And then you came and nobody was around you. I mean, can you believe this happened this is berserk. I'm thinking about 6 years ago. And we sold the whole lot. Do you know that those properties that we sold for R1 million are now selling for 2.5 to 3 million? We want our investors to make money. It's very important in our brand across Rabie and in Signature that the guys come back. So that's why before we start a project, we've always got 30, 40, 50, depending how big it is, of sales. And this is what we saw at the joint venture with Zenprop on the residential. We sold 700-800 units. It's a great project, Zenprop and Amazon. I mean, it's beautiful. It's the southern suburbs.
You've created another whole city there.
That resi and its interaction with the shopping and the offices, it all happened. So, that was sort of the end. So coming with Signature, it was great to work. I've got, as I mentioned, 3 daughters. My middle daughter's married to Anton, who was with Bro. He's now actually the top guy, the Western Cape property guy at Shoprite. And David Novice married to my baby. He's in Signature on the Airbnb side. We call it Perch. So it's very important that. So we can sell somebody an apartment and we can rent it for them. And they can the returns today are fantastic, because it's been a bull market. Can Sea Point and Greenpoint in these areas keep going?
So Signature is not involved in the retirement living.
No. So no retirement.
That's the Rabie.
That's the Rabie property. Oasis Living. It was it kicked off very interesting. We with the Oasis building in Century City, very successful. When and the guys have done a great job, and then we've grown that enormously across the Western Cape footprint. But no, not on the retirement. So
internationally, obviously, Signature has gone.
Yeah. So what happened? That's a very good point. So in 2018, I get a call from a guy called Newman Leash, and he's got a South African accent. He says, "Look, I'm phoning from." I've got a company called Recapital. We asset managers, and we in Geneva in Switzerland. I said, no, Newbie, how's it going? You sound like a brother. He said, I went to Victory Park in school in Johannesburg. I said, but your name's Leash. He said, no, my father was a teacher there. So he came to Cape Town. I met him at Century City. And he said, look here, he's got a site in Lisbon, in Avenue de la Liberdade, just up the road. It's right next to, it's in a very nice area called Amoreish. And it was ironical in that it was a site that we could do exactly what we had just done at the Onyx here and the foreshore, retail below and apartments above. Looked at it and got the guys together. So I said, look, tell you what. And he's quite an interesting character because we had very, very strong equity partners there. We put our money in for 20%, and he had the other guys with some very powerful international investors. So that was a very interesting and managed very professionally. So what happens now? We have the launch in Cape Town here at the one and only. 500 people come. Boom. 100 units we sold on the night. 100 units at about, 2, 3, 4 million euros at that stage. Where we
Any followers from South
yeah,
Africa?
not bad, 50, 60, but it really got in when we got on site and we started building, we started to pick up very big Brazilian and American and British. That's the big markets in Portugal. Portugal's problem is not the people to buy, it's the very intransigent local authorities. Very, very difficult to deal with. But how about this? We kick off, 18 months later, COVID comes. Lisbon, Portugal shut down. We get through COVID. 18 months later, Russia invaded Ukraine. Very big impact on Europe. Very big. Got through that. And today it's finished. Beautifully, all sold. And lovely retail at the bottom, right in the heart of Lisbon. So again, using a lot of the skills that we had. And Newman said to me, like, I've got this one, I got that one. I said, no, I've done my bit here. I want to go home. I always said that's easier to make 20 Rand than $1. So, but a great experience. And then what we saw post-COVID, I go to George a lot. We have a place at Fancourt. And I said to Jill, I can't spend too much time. I can't play golf every day. I'm looking at the four walls. I said, I'm going to start. I've got a product. So we started in George and with apartments, 1.5, 2 million Rand. And we were very successful. We sold
They sold out in no time. I mean, I know exactly because I go there often.
Yeah. And now we've got...
Before I even looked, it was gone.
Yeah. And so we did well in George and still are doing great there. Then we went to Mossel Bay. Now the world is,
and the product's unbelievable. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, there are a lot of developers that just roll out developments, but the overall product is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, again, I think that's what they said to me. We designed this development quite close to Fancourt called Arbor. It's a nature reserve. They said to me when I saw the plans, I said to the architect, the community there, the people that live in George are conservative people. There's no way they're going to buy this. I went back, I thought about it. I said, well, you know what? Let's build the show houses in there. And boy, we took off. And why? Beautiful clubhouses, beautiful paddle courts. George has never seen lifestyle. So we showed them a whole new way of living. And we continue to trade there. And, it's well run, and that's really where we are at the moment. What we're seeing in Cape Town is a revival of products, and we've got some very nice stuff lined up for the future.
But I want to ask you: do you think Cape Town there's an oversupply on the horizon, or do you think that there's still a long way to go? I mean, the prices have, I mean, everyone says that it's too expensive too. It's always been too expensive. It's always been way beyond most people's reach, but it keeps going up, and it's supported by international investors. It's supported by our own local economy. But I'm saying, do you think that they'll get a time when there may be possibly just too much?
Normie, as we stand today, is that the tourism industry, hospitality, is driving this place through the roof. Because
it was voted City of the Year of the world, or the best city in the world.
People are pouring in here, and they come and they love it, and they come back. And now with the war in the Middle East, Cape Town's gaining. We might lose. We're a very big market for the Saudis and for the Emiratis. They come to Cape Town for the warmer, for their hot weather when it gets very hot in June, July. But you might lose that because the airports are closed now. But the cars are pouring in from the UK because now they can come. So they said that the three areas that are gaining in the war, Maldives, and they mentioned some islands in the Atlantic, I think it's Tenerife, and Cape Town. Okay. It was on BBC.
You've got the weather,
everything.
You've got the golf course,
and you've got
the wine routes, you've got the mountain, you've got almost anything you could possibly. What a gem of the world.
And you've got a fantastic council. You've got a fantastic mayor, Jordan Hill-Lewis. He's a forward thinker. He's a doer. And he understands what municipalities should be doing around the country.
He's made carry on that path and the rest of the country to follow. Yeah. we've been. It seems like we've just started, but we've been talking for a long time, and it's been absolutely magnificent. But I need to ask you a couple of touch points. And I mean, tell me your advice to a young property developer coming. Just one bit of advice.
Look, it's as the years have gone by, it's actually been the entry level into property is very difficult because it's expensive. But there are gaps, and you start at the bottom. You start building a house or two, or you get involved in buying a block of flats and you sectionalize it. And there are many different ways, but the property is not only what we do as a development, it's also managing the property and looking at the aspects of built buildings that you can add onto them. So there are many.
And buy to sell against buy to rent.
Yeah, no, there's a big market.
Buy to sell against buy to rent, which you've always been buy to sell.
Yeah, no, we sell.
But what do you think about
buy to rent is
develop
good.
To rent?
Develop to rent, also good. Just got to find the right area, get the rentals correct. If you can rent under sort of 10,000 Rand a month in the more outlying communities, you will be successful. So it's not impossible. It's just a lot more difficult than 1978.
And your advice to something for any young developer to avoid the most, what do you think the mistake?
Well, I think
watch out for.
Yeah, I think rights. How do you rezone? You're dealing with different communities. Sometimes everybody's got a voice here. So one's got to be very careful of that. And then whatever you develop, make it superb, because you cannot make a mistake in property. If you start building inferior stuff, or your planning doesn't work, or you're in the wrong spot, you will fail, unfortunately.
And going back, who do you think you learned the most from along the way? I know that you taught a lot of people, and it was by learning and experience and making mistakes and doing it right. But you had obviously Leon by your side, and you had Murray and Roberts as the developers. But anyone significant that you can say, listen, you learned a lot from that person, and you go back and say, listen, thank you for what you taught me? Or your parents maybe?
I don't think, my dad was an engineer. They had businesses in stainless steel and in windows, but they weren't property people per se. No, I think my traveling to the UK, to the US, I had an incredible experience with Andrew Young, the governor in the US, when he came to see what we did at Marconi Beam. He said, Johnny, you get on the aeroplane, and you come and I'll show you what we're doing in Atlanta, Georgia. And where they play the final tournament in the FedEx Cup in Atlanta. I went to that golf course. I met the owner of the land around, who also had a problem with the housing. The guy is always on the TV when that tournament is played. And I learned about Atlanta, how Atlanta grew. So I think just overall travel informed me. And then just in my heart, I love property. I love it. It's in me. I don't know why I was born like that. I love the construction too, but the property, the chase, the understanding.
I can see your eyes light up when you talk about, and especially designing the new developments. I can just see. It's also so exciting to do new things, and I must say, we are very fortunate to make sure that you never left the country. So there have been a lot of people that have left.
I tell you one thing. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm a patriot. I love South Africa. I really do. I love the people. I sometimes don't like the politicians, but politicians around the world are all the same. But I love the people. South Africa has got the best people in the world from across all spectrums. We're warm. Where do you go into a restaurant in the US, and you sit and you start talking to the 6'6" guy there, and you say, "Hey, brother, how are you doing? How was your day today?" You'll think you lost your marble. So you know what I'm saying? We are
We've got
warm.
heart.
We've got
soul,
heart, and that will be the strength of this country.
And you just look at our sport. I mean, South Africa, I mean, we have such a diverse culture and everyone just seems to come together. And I mean, we've got so much to offer. And I think, to be honest, I think there's a lot of people outside of our borders that are envious of what we have to offer and who we are. And as South African people, because they're the first to get jobs when they travel abroad. They're the hardworking people, and they're passionate. They've got excitement. They've got everything. And a lot of people look back and they say, we remember the people from South Africa. We remember our time in South Africa, and we're just fortunate to be able to live here and enjoy it. So
I think just on that is that there can be no greater joy than seeing a South African rugby side win a World Cup or do something. What is the reaction of the players? The black and the white and the brown, everybody, the love that, it's a remarkable thing that's happened.
Sport
with Rassie.
Breaks down all barriers.
I think he's been sensational.
And it's an amazing thing, because on our next podcast, I'm interviewing Selwyn Nathan, who brings business and sport together, and he talks about all those things and about how the country. So listen, Johnny, thank you so much for sharing with me. So much I learned today about you that I didn't know. I touched on it from people who told me all about the story, and thank you. It's been an absolute honor. I could sit here for hours and hours, and maybe we'll continue this at the golf course and we'll play, and you can carry on. And we'd just love to have you maybe possibly come to Gauteng and do some major projects there. We'd love to see you do something, then put your signature there.
Yeah, we are looking.
And again, from the bottom of my heart and for everyone on the channel and broadcast, thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Norman. And I'd just like to say to you and to Johnny Bro, who I've known for many, many years, and what a great property man he is. And what memories I have with him and his late partner, Alan Wallace. They were very special. And it's just so ironical sitting here after all the years. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. I love talking about it. My wife's tired of hearing me say that it's getting excited, but I can talk to you. So thanks very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm Norman Rod, and see you on the next one. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Cheers for now.